Good evening. Welcome to the 2026 election hustings for the Connétable of St. Clement. Now, just to let you know, this event's being live streamed to vote.je YouTube account, and there'll be a recording of it uploaded to vote.je and to YouTube, so you can watch it, or your friends, relatives, whoever can't make it can watch it tomorrow or the day after. As I expect you know, your candidate is Marcus Troy, and as he's the only candidate for Connétable, you'll also have the option to choose none of the candidates when you place your vote, also known as none of the above. I'm sure Marcus knows about that. Tonight, Marcus would like to go straight to questions, so you have as much time as possible to quiz him about all his policies. A microphone will be brought to you so that you can ask your question, and I'll start by taking one question from each person, and then we can go back again once everybody else has had their chance. So, shall we get started? I think I know that there's somebody who's ready with a question over there. She hasn't put her hand up, but I did chat to her earlier. So the microphone's just coming to you.
Hello. First of all, Constable, I'd like to say thank you very much for standing again, and to anybody here tonight who's going to offer themselves and provide service to the island. I think quite often there's too much negativity passed around, and I'm always very grateful to anybody who's prepared to provide service to us. So thank you very much. My question is, what is your vision? What would you like to see at the end of your next term for St. Clement, and more broadly, maybe the island?
It's very simple. Equality. I think we are two different islands. We are the haves and have-nots. And I spent my first 4 years trying to balance things up within the parish. I promised to put the parish first and people before politics. So equality is my mission. That's why we've spent a lot of time with mental health issues, which I have to confess before I was elected. I didn't know the extent of it. I was one of these guys who was just working away in my hospitality roles, and I didn't know the extent of it and the range of ages that's affected, the young and the old and the in-between. The stress on the island is because of competition. Everybody wants what everybody else has got, and it's unfair. So we've done a range. We've done a range of things for the parish. We've got some allotments which we put out for people who don't have enough garden space, and those are for people who can prove that they don't have the resources to do to pay for allotments. So we pay for those through our trusts. That was one of the first moves. And also, I bumped into and met and chatted with a lady called Vicky Rice-Webber. Now, Vicky is a psychological teacher. So anything to do with the brain, mental health, etc. She trains psychologists. We set up for free a mental health unit here, whereby parishioners, first off, which will see other people with her other counsellors, they will see people free of charge and very quickly. And that's because I found out that there was a year's waiting list the talking lounge. Now that's not acceptable, and I think that's one of the issues we've got to tackle in government. We need to provide some more money, because at the end of the day that will save us quite a lot of money and make people more happy.
Do you have any other follow-up questions to that? No? Okay. Who would be next? Anybody else got any questions ready? Okay, a lady in the yellow jumper.
Hello, Marcus.
Hi, Joanne.
I'm a big fan. So my question is, it's inspired by this. So I know, walking around our parish, that there are a number of people that are fully qualified, Jersey homegrown, students that have returned from university, people who grew up here 20, 30 years ago that have come and gone, would like to get into teaching. We are desperate for teachers, and they cannot get a position on this island. What can we do about that? Or is there anything we can do about that?
I confess I didn't know that about the teaching profession. I thought we were still looking for teachers. We've taken on a lot of teachers' assistants around and about since it was proven to level the playing field and give teachers more time to do their core work. So that obviously works, and we've taken on a lot. But I do think with the teaching profession and also with the hospital, we need to have more homegrown talent. I know that the Highlands College, which I'm a sort of graduate in hospitality, is a fabulous place. and they're taking on teaching and nursing. But we do need to. It's in our best interests financially and otherwise to grip the talent that's within us. And so, whatever we can do for that, whether it's moving costs, incentives, etc., I think in the end we will benefit. But I didn't know there was a gap in the market, so to speak, with homegrown teachers. So I'll continue.
Do you have a follow-up question to that? Wait, hang on, wait for the mic.
So obviously, if you look on the website, which is excellent, the gov.je website, they advertise so many positions. Like we are desperately short according to that website. And that's why I was horrified to hear that people that are here already, so we don't need to find them houses, we don't need to get them licenses, and they can't get jobs. So I was just wondering if you'd come across that. That's why I asked the question about the red tape. You know, we're in our own way on that one, aren't we? So
Yeah, I mean, let some of them come and see me and I'll find out what's going on. But I haven't been on the government deployment site for a little while. I tend to focus on the hospital situation because there are issues there over a period of time. But certainly I'm quite happy to speak to people and go with them to find out what's going on behind the scenes. I know that, you know, the student numbers are dropping, as is primary school students and obviously nurseries, but we do need teachers to back up the current ones, and we don't want stress in the workplace. So if there is huge vacancies, then there's bound to be stress in the workplace. I know from hospitality, we're struggling with people coming over as well, and we're short-staffed just about everywhere.
One of the things that the lady mentioned was red tape. Is there anything that you want to tell her about red tape?
I think red tape is the manufacture of government. It's suitable for them. I don't like it at all. I like to be more direct. But I don't know what is holding up the teacher advance. So once I establish and I can find out what that is, then I can do something about it or help to do something about it.
Okay, there's somebody over there on that side who has got their hand up, and then there's somebody else, two people on that side of the room.
Hello, that's a really good question. I did used to work at Highlands College. I was one of the directors there. There is a Jersey license route for people that want to be teachers, particularly in areas that there is a shortage. There's IT teachers, science. So there is a Jersey license, so people can apply and be trained on island. So they work on island. So that is run through the education department.
And do you have a question about that for Marcus?
I don't think I do. I think it works extremely well. I think lots of primary teachers are selected this way, and people that have worked in industry themselves and want to go into teaching, it's a nice stepping stone for them. Graduates, people that have experienced the industry, and then they can move into teaching. Yeah, so but it'd be great to have your view on that, Marcus. Thank you.
I think that if it exists and it works, that's obviously just one string to the bow. But if there are locally born people who've spent a good deal of time in Jersey and know it well and are qualified, then we should open our arms to them as well. And that might force competition, so you get a better standard of teacher in the long run.
Okay, next person up over there at the back had their hand up with a question.
It's a comment moving on from the teachers and the homegrown thing. I know of someone who was a homegrown teacher, had experience in the UK, came back, wanted to come back, and because she was turned down, now works abroad as an expat. Someone lost to the island, and we're complaining about that because people are leaving in droves. So we're sort of making it happen ourselves.
So how do we put that as a question? Just views from Marcus about that? Okay.
Thank you for the information. Like I say, I will look into the situation. I'll speak to Rob Ward as soon as I can and do some more homework on it. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anybody else with a question? Anybody over this side? It's going to be a very short meeting if you don't have some questions. Right, here we have somebody over there.
Hi, Marcus. Do you feel that there is a problem with starting projects and then abandoning them and the cost that goes with it? I'm thinking the hospital, which has obviously been put back 4 years now in the last term, which will cost a considerable sum of money, and also the sports hall that was planned to be shared by the community and the school at Le Rocquier that seems to have been abandoned completely after, again, money spent on consultants, etc.
I think sometimes we dream. I think the ministers, the Council of Ministers, are leading us astray too many times. When I first got elected, I was shown plans for a £75 million development at Le Rocquier School, which was going to be the east of the island centre for swimming and sport. And I knew at the time it was never going to happen, and that was reduced to 45 million with another meeting with the sports director, a Scottish lady, and I've forgotten her name, and she was fantastic. And I think she thought at the time, I think the reason we lost her is that it was a rainbow without any treasure at the end of it. And this isn't acceptable. I mean, Fort Regent really should be dropped at the moment and just be maintained for the moment. We can't afford to spend 100 and whatever million. We need to maintain it, and we need to get it up to maintenance standard. But the hospital, you have really touched my nerve. I despise the arrangements that the hospital has created. I was going to bring it in actually. I've got a red file, which was presented to me by Lyndon Farnham. And the professor who was leading the hospital project, the Our Hospital project, that project was going to cost 745 million. The borrowing was in 2 bonds at about 2.25%. And what we were earning in our special reserve in the states of Jersey was reaching 7%. So it was a no-brainer. Now that hospital, as you probably know, Lindsay, you know, that hospital would be finished by now. And that would leave all the beautiful buildings in Gloucester Street and Kensington Place empty, so the states could either sell them and put the money towards the hospital or refurbish them themselves and put teachers' accommodation, hospital accommodation of high quality, because that's what we're missing. Some people aren't coming over here because the high cost of living and high cost of rent. So you subsidize that. And you make a run of shops and offices in the ground floor. You could attach to the new waterfront scheme with an art centre. You could put stuff on the roof. It's just, Tom Binney knows how I feel. And he made a joke in the States that I was his enemy. I'm not his enemy, but his policies as regard the new hospital are completely wrong. And he promised not even 9 months ago that he wouldn't go over the 720 million that was to build this hospital. Now, this hospital will cost more than 720 million. That building will cost 720 million, but he's bought Kensington Place as a backup because he needs the extra space because the hospital's not complete. Now, Kensington Place was sold before the states got hold of it for 8 million. A year later, the states bought it for 16. That 16 million's done nothing for 3 years. If you calculate the interest on 16 million plus the actual capital of 16 million, you're wasting, use a rude word, you're wasting a huge amount of money. And that's unforgivable. And it's basic common sense. A child could work that out. So we waste a lot of money on projects that we'd like to do. We shouldn't look into them if we have the funds to do it in the first place. So that's where I stand.
Do you have anything you'd like to comment on after that, Lindsay? No?
Summed it up very well.
Okay. There's a question over here. Just hang on, wait for the mic because otherwise they won't hear online. Thanks.
Right, it's just a follow-up from that. You mentioned about the sports hall that was proposed at Le Rocquier, but I see in this leaflet that you've put out, you've got a green light for buying some land at or getting some land at the Rockier, and I just wondered what the plans were for that portion of land, and which portion of land are we talking about?
So we've been badgering and trying to find out who owns the Larocchia School field. And we thought that it belonged to Larocchia School, therefore education. We found out that it didn't. It belongs to infrastructure. So we've been badgering the infrastructure minister and Ajam, and we have a gentleman's agreement that will take over the bottom triangle. So this granite wall that could be dissected if you come 90 degrees across, and it's quite a big piece of land. And that would not upset any future development in the main field, but that's what we're aiming for. And we're aiming for facilities for youngsters, particularly, but also for teenagers. They've got nowhere to go. In my day, I could go into town and I could go to 9 different youth clubs. There's not one in Henley at the moment. We've got one here. So whereas we think teenagers are a bit of a pain and a bit of a nuisance, they're actually bored. If you give them something to do, they'll leave you alone, they'll get on with their lives, they'll burn their calories, come home tired, and won't be troublesome. You will get a few. So we're after building a playing field in that quarter of that part of the land there, and we'll get it professionally done. And we'll probably go out to get some sponsorship and some donations. But we're on it at the moment. So we're just waiting for the legal beagles to sort that out. And I think we won't. We might have a minimum rent, but we were told maybe £1 a year.
All right, there's another question just here.
Just following along the same theme, I've noticed I've only recently moved into St Clement, but it's the same in all the parishes. Why are the school courts locked up after school? The kids need somewhere to go. It's a perfect facility for them. And quite frankly, for people like me as well, I've recently taken up roller skating at my age. It's probably not a good idea. But it would be lovely to have somewhere to go that was suitable for that. Do you have any observations or comments on that?
I have plenty. So it would seem as though you've all been planted here so that I can beef off about problems in the parish that we've been talking about already. So we've spoken to the schools, and again, we spoke to Deputy Wall, and we said exactly the same thing. At the back of the Skye School, there's tarmac all over the place, and they're using it for a car park. We noted that a few years ago. And we also noted that St Clement's primary school's got some patch of land behind that as well. And the Rockier, we asked that be opened in the evenings, either the night-time classes and or football, gym, etc., etc. And I was told they would look into it. It really hasn't happened. Now, what should happen really is we don't mind whether it's tarmac. All you have to do, very, very simply, is put a couple of five-a-side goalposts, one end and the other. The same with netball, one end and the other, and the same with basketball. And you've got teenagers using it probably all day long, probably until dusk. But that hasn't happened yet. We've been on it a lot. And I think with one of our deputies, community services, community committees, they're working on that very, very hard. So I've backed off. I know they're on it, but it is one of our routes to give a healthier life to our youngsters. And I don't see why, because it's tarmac. I mean, we used to play on tarmac football and all sorts of games. And I've said this before at council's meetings, and if you cut yourself on your knee, that was a trophy. You shoved that off. You say, look at that, football last night. So it's not dangerous. There's no health and safety issues as far as I'm concerned, because kids are kids, play. That's what I say.
Okay, anybody want to make any comments or questions about that or anything else? Who hasn't asked the question yet? I can't ask questions because I'm just here moderating. Well done, lady at the back in a white cardigan.
Sorry to stand up a second time.
You're very welcome.
What are your opinions on Gerrier? They have activities which are come and listen to chat to Gerrier spoken around the island, but there isn't one in St Clement, and I wondered if that's something that you would consider.
I think that's something we haven't looked at, and I'll be happy to admit to that. I'm a limited French speaker, which I taught myself in hotels, and I enjoy it. I'll be honest. I was taught Spanish by Bob Le Sueur, who was one of our famous parishioners. I enjoyed that very much. Gerrier is a dying language, and there is no reason why we can't do something in the parish hall. We can certainly look into that, but I apologise, it's not something I've looked
It could
into.
even be in a cafe or something like that.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be the parish hall particularly, but I wondered if you would support something like that in the parish.
I would certainly. The parish has still got space. The parish hall has still got space for various activities. We want to fill it every day of the week and night of the week, whatever activities people want. If you could put me in touch with somebody who can help with that, hopefully living in the parish, for example, that'd be fantastic. We actually, through Bernadette's efforts, Bernadette is our twinning chair. I think she might be here. She's teaching us all to speak French because we have a tie with Concal in Brittany, and it's been very, very successful. That's free, and that's 2 times a week in the room next door, the Hock room, and that's been hugely successful. Free, and it is a giggle because they make you sing. And I understand that the next twinning thing we're going to be dancing, Brittany style dancing. God forbid I'm going to be there.
Oh, well, whilst you're on the topic of dancing, the Fête Normande, which is the triannual fair of Gerrier between Normandy, Guernsey and Jersey, will be held between the 13th and 14th of June in Jersey this year. And they're looking for dancers. So if you've got some experience, I'll put you in touch.
I don't have any experience at the moment, but maybe next year.
I shall speak to Bernadette then.
So does Bernadette have any other questions or comments about what we've just been talking about? Here comes the mic.
No, I don't think I do have any particular comments. I think French is a very important language. We are the only parish linked to a Breton town, which I fully endorse. So, the other parishes, unfortunately, are with the Normans, but, that's up to them. But we are very, very proud of our links with Brittany and with Congo. And being half Breton myself, I suppose, that's I am biased. But certainly, I mean, we do put on these courses once a year, 10-week course, and we are meeting a varied range of people, but they are all super in their way. Some of them haven't studied since they were at school. And we've got a whole age range that goes from anything up from 30 to 80. So parishioners, do come along. One thing that does concern me, Marcus, and this perhaps I could ask you, is communication to all parishioners. Because the number of people who come to me and say, well, I didn't know about it. And I say, well, look, we've been advertising it in the parish hall. We've advertised it in the parish magazine. Surely you get these things. We've advertised it on the website, on the residents' website, Facebook, all of these places. So what is missing? Why are we not getting to all parishioners? Is it that, I mean, yes, I admit percentage will not bother. We'll probably just switch off and say, well, I never saw it. In other words, it wasn't put directly in front of me. But others perhaps would want to know. And I think when in the old days, when people actually got communication by post for their rates and everything else, it went to every household, essentially. Now, unfortunately, with data protection issues and everything else, people have to agree to sign up to the website, to have their email addresses and everything. And it makes it far more complicated communicating with the whole parish. And along with that, I mean, if I can bring in something else, I mean, parish assemblies, I mean, there was this suggestion this year that parish assemblies should go online. What are your thoughts on that?
I've got no issue with parish assemblies going online and people asking questions from their household. It's not a problem. I think one of the problems we've got, we've tried to grow the communication. Kim, for example, is a bit of a specialist in that, and you can see from the quality of the leaflets that we're putting out now, they're far more superior than they used to be. The twinning, for example, is in the Parish magazine. I think it's been in the last 3 in some manner or form. I'll look into whether I think it is included at least twice the French lessons. And we could do more, but I think one of our particular problems in St Clement is, as we talked earlier on at the very beginning, we're a parish and an island of 2 halves, and we do have an enormous number of people that live in Clement and surrounding closes and Le Marais, and they're not connected, and that's why we formed the St Clement Community Hub. So we have, if you like, a mini parish hall in what used to be called the Lesquet, which had a rotten reputation back in the day. And then Andium rebuilt it. We went along to have a look with the Honorary Police and some of the parish staff, and we said to Andium, we want to build a hub here. You need a hub for communication and for people to feel they're more attached. And it's interesting that in the last election, we put on a parish bus, a minibus service for the last election. And out of the numbers of people that live down there, which must be a couple of thousand, we only had 22 use the bus. It's not to say other people haven't made it here by other means, but I generally recognize people, and I don't think we had a good turnout. So pushing that down there, and all our information that we put out here also goes to the community hub. Any ideas will be helpful. What I struggle with sometimes is the amount of stuff that comes out through different resources. For example, Facebook and WhatsApp, emails, text, telephone calls. What do you answer first? It's a nightmare. It's a growing nightmare. And billionaires are making huge amounts of money by creating another communications vessel. And personally, I can't keep up. My record is for somebody to say to me, Marcus, I texted you 10 minutes ago, you haven't replied. I'm in the office with stuff that high. So it is difficult, but certainly we want to push everything we do. There's no point in doing this stuff if we don't get the numbers. I mean, you have to look around you now. Vote.je are bigger than the parish. And how many people have we got here? Now, either that's a sign of happiness or lack of interest, or we're doing it wrong. So we want as many people in through the parish hall in any events that we've got as possible. Any ideas, please? On a postcard, please.
So do you have any ideas? Yeah. Do you want to say anything else back to Marcus about what people have said to you about how they might like to hear about things?
Not specifically. I mean, we're trying our utmost. I mean, we've been going around putting posters up everywhere. That's been our latest. We've got a list of places. I do find some places like some of the retail units. I mean, if only they had a community board or something like that, that would help. But they say, oh no, they're not allowed to advertise, even from what's in our local communities. I find that a bit tough to understand. But yeah, I mean, we're in the same position. We're trying all sorts to get people involved. But it's just a shame that when you're halfway through a French course and somebody says, oh, I've just heard that you're doing French. I didn't know anything about it. And I'm thinking, well, we've been advertising this in various means for several months. what's going on, you know, and so many people are saying it. So I keep saying, well, it was in the Parish magazine. I mean, we even participated in a Christmas fair here, thanks to Colette Wilmot. And we were advertising the French lessons then, and they only started in March, and that was in November. So it's not that we're not advertising, it's a case of, you know, we're not getting there. I mean, you know, I suppose we could trek the boards and go around to every household and post something through. You know, that's to make sure they get it. But I don't know really. I mean, you know, we keep thinking, we keep trying, and that's the way forward, really.
Marcus?
I was going to say one change of heart is Green Island stores. I've noticed only recently in the last few months, they've been putting up community posters in the window, which is good.
Can I tell you a funny story on that one?
Please do.
They told us that actually it gives them shade.
Who cares?
So it was
Who
very
cares?
good. I mean, it's a good reason, but yeah.
It gives them shade, it gives us French.
But that gives us publicity.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else with a comment on that or another question about something different? Ah, here we go.
Just to say that you're saying that there's very few people here tonight, I think because it is an uncontested election, that people feel it's a foregone conclusion and therefore what's the point? But there was a comment on Facebook as to why it was happening, and somebody said, you know, it's because it's for you to put your views across and for us to voice our concerns and interests and what we feel is a priority in the parish. So, and hopefully you'll take some of these, or hopefully you'll take more on board. But I do have a question, actually. I see that you're looking to sell the original St Clement School, and I just wondered what your views would be as to what could happen to that site once it's sold. Obviously, it would be sort of mainly out of your hands. It'd be down to planning or whatever, what's allowed. But I just think it's in a very tough area with junior school right opposite, primary school right opposite, and I just wondered what your views would be as to what would be allowed on that site.
First of all, I agree with you about the turnout, and for conclusion, there was a lot of email traffic between constables, those of us who were uncontested, as to whether we go ahead or whether we didn't. And I think to a man and woman, everybody agreed we should show up and make sure we're seen and be put on the spot and held accountable for those things we might not have done, and also pointed in the right direction of things that parishioners would like us to do. And I think it's a very fair way of doing things. With regards to St Christopher's School, we're already on it. So we were under the misapprehension, we think, that St Christopher's School, we thought it had a covenant on it, which meant it could only be sold for educational purposes. So we went through the rounds of trying to get people who might be interested in buying it on that basis. We also spoke to education to see if they wanted it first. We know that St Clement's School wants it, but they don't have the money. But then education say they don't need it. So that's a bit confusing. We then ended up with 7 different people coming to see it. I showed people around the school many times, some of them, and they all fell away. So we did some more digging, and we asked the greffiers to look into the covenant situation. And also we asked the Jersey Archive Service to look into it. We're now pretty sure that it doesn't have a covenant on it to be sold or as an educational facility, which puts more money, which we should put more money in this parishioner's pocket. It is, however, listed. The front is listed. We're going to, as a result of a meeting with some developers I had last Thursday or Friday, I think it was, we're going to instruct a lawyer to look into that and approach planning to see whether we can get it delisted. Because I don't think there's any value in it. It's a bit like the Odeon Cinema. Would you really want to have it listed? Maybe Art Deco, but it's in the middle of the north end of town. So there are opinions every which way. But we are looking at selling it on the open market. The difference in price, achievable, is about £300,000. So if we were to sell it as an educational facility, in the condition that it's in, we might achieve £1 million to £1.2 million. If we sold it as an open venture for any developer, it might go up to about 1.5 million. Obviously, we want the latter so that we can return the rent that was owed, pay off the lawyers, and move that on to other beneficial tasks that we need to do. For example, the playground, but also we've got our eyes on the rectory. The rectory is a huge premises, and I put on my notes huge opportunity, low yield currently. So as a business type person, we shouldn't be sitting on it as we are. We should be developing it. So some of that money can be moved across there. Now we own the rectory and we own the school. The rectory is valued between 2 and 2.5 million. So that is that's a considerable amount of money to have, and to potentially develop. So we could do a joint venture. We can't afford to develop ourselves, but we could do a joint venture with some developers. So we're looking into that very, very thoroughly. And we're happy that we think there's not a covenant to be an educational facility. So it could be anything, and that's down to the developers. There is an opportunity to build housing for the over 55s. There's a possibility of nursing home facilities. So it's an open house situation. We're looking into it very very thoroughly with the procurers.
Okay, thanks, Marcus. Anybody else? Anybody over here with any questions?
Marcus, I was going to sit quietly, I promise. Just one thing I wanted to ask you. A Connétable has responsibility for their parish. And I wanted to just know what your thoughts were on whether a Connétable should actually be a minister within the government framework. I'm thinking, especially if it's a ministry for quite a large section, for example, infrastructure, things like that, because it would put a lot more pressure on them, given that they already have a lot of responsibility and work to do in their own parishes. You know, is there the possibility that takes them away from that because they're busy doing other states' work? Now, I mean, it's fine if they're sitting on some of the committees as such, but not being a minister it's a lot more responsibility as far as I can see. Maybe you could dispel the myth.
I can't talk for the other constables. I wouldn't take on a ministerial position. It's too much of a mouthful. Minister Constable Troy. Constable Minister Troy. That's just starters. So no, it's not something that I think would work, particularly here in St Saviour's and Helier and busier parishes. I mean, this is a business. Lock, stock and barrel, we employ staff, we have responsibilities, we have land, we have buildings to look after. I've taken on subcommittees and I've been on scrutiny panels, and I'm happy with that. But even that grows. So you get invited to go onto a scrutiny panel, and before you know it, you're meeting more often than possible. And that's not a criticism of the system, but it is what it is. But certainly I would not be looking for a ministerial position. I was asked by somebody 4 days ago, and I said no. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question about that or about anything else? Okay, here comes the mic.
Hello. So a question that I've been getting is about the Eastern Cycle route. What happened to the Eastern Cycle Route?
That is a pickle. There's no two ways about it. It's stuck, frankly. There are land issues and permissions. There is, if you can imagine getting from Goring to town in a particular route that does not take on the inner road, you've got to go through FB fields. We're looking at that at a certain stage, when again, they were going to develop FB fields, which didn't happen. I've seen content that says that they were going to build a park on the southern side of FB fields. The cricket was going and the athletic was moving to the other side, with the provision for the cycle track to go from east to west. That still didn't join everything up. So I think that is a serious planning issue with infrastructure and environment. And I think they're tied up a little bit and they don't know, they can't finish the job because they can't get the permissions to go through various people's lands, some of which probably belong to the states. But I'm not familiar, I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not familiar with what's tying them up. We've got no problem helping them out if we had land that was pertinent to the Eastern Cycle Track, but we don't. But we'd certainly be interested in helping find it and maybe a bit of sponsorship if we could afford it and go out for donations again. But yeah, it's stuck in the mud, unfortunately.
Do you have any follow-up queries?
Just everybody might be aware that there are businesses in our parish that have obviously paid towards the East Cycle Route, and obviously that nothing's happened. Those businesses have been there 4 years, and they've not seen a penny of their money put to any good use. So that was the question that came to me. Yeah,
it needs a push, Joanne, and I'm quite happy to help anybody amongst us to push the infrastructure and environment department to find out what's going on. I'm not clear about what's going on, but I have been told that is the situation. They're bogged down in legal stuff, landowners, but that still doesn't join it up. They don't have enough mileage, so to speak, on the Eastern Cycle Track to actually form it. And really, I wouldn't have taken any money off businesses before I was ready to do so. It's another rainbow opportunity that's been missed.
Okay, thank you. There's somebody with their hand up over there.
Thank you. Just going on from the Eastern Cycle Track, I live on the seawall between the Rice Bowl and Dyke Shack. Obviously, there's a lot of contention about the sea defences that are coming around from Havre de Par that are including the section that we live in front of. And part of that proposal is to have the cycle path going along the promenade from that point. And we were wondering whether the push for the Eastern Cycle Track was part of the deal with the sea defences, which actually we don't need in that stretch of beach. Do you know anything about that?
I sort of do and I sort of don't. I don't think that was part of the deal with the Eastern Cycle Track. I think the sea defences, I actually inquired before this came out. When I first got in, I dread going down past the Ambassador, places like that. Because the accident that is waiting to happen is when a car is coming from town, a car is coming from east, and both want to overtake a cyclist that's in their way. Both manoeuvre. You're looking at a head-on collision. Now, thankfully, it's 30 miles an hour. However, you know, we'll get up to, particularly our honorary police. So I was very happy when I got a deputation from infrastructure, and they showed me the plans for Half Day Park. First of all, they want to go into the sea and increase the promenade area around Half Day Park, taking it as far as the White Horse. Then the next stage is a three-stage situation. Eventually, they want to come from the Rice Bowl and do something similar and build a new wall, fill in the gap between the old seawall and the new wall, and produce some pedestrianisation there. So, I mean, the other accident waiting to happen is if one of those two cars goes into the pavement where there's a pram, a dog, mum, can't cope, bag full of M&S shopping and all that sort of stuff. I see it in my mind lots of times. So the sooner that can happen, the better. But it's not currently part of the Eastern cycle track. I think it's because it doesn't join up very well. But if we can get the bicycles off the road there, then that would satisfy me big time. There is a thought. I've been speaking to one of the deputies in Grouville, and she wants to do a circular route at various times, which is worth looking at. Whereby first thing in the morning, when people are migrating into town, cars go west up this way from Gorey, and those going the other way go inner road all the way to Gorey, and vice versa. Well, that has to be timed almost like a train station and catch points. So you've got to be very careful, and that's a big task to tie that up. It's a possibility. It's worth thinking about and looking into. So we have an arrangement that's with Deputy Levy to look into that. It is worth looking into because there is an meeting to happen.
Thank you. Anybody else? Who's next with their question? This gentleman here.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Constable. I'd just like to take you back to your discussion earlier about the rectory. This is something new which we haven't heard of before. The rectory is a purpose-built building built in 1938, and I'm just wondering how it's come about that the area that it's built on is not fit for purpose.
Well, it is because it's just been refurbished for the new rectory, and so between the parish and the church, we fitted it out again. But the rectory is a very large expanse of land, and in a small parish like ours of 4.6 square kilometres and 10,500 people, I don't believe it's the case that we should give over that size of land and building to a rector. People are scratching out, trying to find accommodation, sheltered housing, nursing home facilities in the parish. So we're looking into it. That's not to say it's going to happen. We have talked to the dean. I've talked to the dean because what we have to do is we own the rectory, and the parish owns the rectory. You can only move a rector from a rectory if the previous when the previous rector gives his notice. So because I'm keen to look into this, when David Shaw moved on, I made an appointment with the dean, having talked to our procurers, and said, what's the best thing we can do with the rectory? We need to develop it. We have to provide other facilities for the rector. Current rector has children of teenage age, so we're thinking we start looking into it now. It's going to take a few years with planning, etc., etc. We may come to a solution that is amicable to him with a reduced family size, and we can maybe build a dementia home or something like that, giving first choice to people who live in the parish. Because when I'm asked, out east, there's not many nursing home facilities, and when I ask seriously by pensioners, people looking to what their future might be, they want to spend their nursing home time in their parish. That's first on their mind. So that's something we're looking into. But again, I'm not saying we're going to do it, but we have to look into these things to find out what's best and give best value to the parish for the future.
The only thing I can say to you is that the Diocese of Winchester, prior to moving over to the Diocese of Salisbury, stipulate the size and the amount of space to which the rector must have in his rectory.
We're aware of that, Bob. This far exceeds what is necessary. So I've got the dimensions and what they propose in the office, and that's the first thing we looked at. And we have to have a study which is separate from his lounge, so that you can accommodate and meet people who are looking to bury loved ones, have marriages and christenings, etc. And we'll abide by that in full. But I think the Diocese of Salisbury is in financial trouble at the moment.
I'm sorry, we can't really comment on that.
No, of course not. So, but we're not. So we need to. We have to balance our books equally. I think the states of Jersey should look into that. So whatever we take in rates, we're only allowed to spend that amount of money. If the states did that, we wouldn't be looking at hospitals costing £1.1 billion and the rest.
And on that note, who else has a question? Comment on what's happened? Was that an arm up? No, it was a scratching of the head. There, at the back with the white cardie.
Going back to your comment about a home for the elderly parishioners, is that something you'd consider doing as a parish like Maze or St Brelard, or would you be thinking to go into business with another provider?
I think, in all honesty, we could not afford to develop such a facility ourselves. So I think it would be a joint venture with a developer or a nursing home company. I would make sure that the parish comes out well, better than they would with the current situation, by far.
My only comment would be that my mother lives at Maze or St Brelard, and I've got friends with elderly parents in other nursing homes, and some of them run for profit and to the detriment cost-wise to the parishioners. So that might be an angle you might want to look at.
I think that's far in the future. I think the nitty-gritty is that we would want to look after our parishioners the way we look after them when they're healthy. And we wouldn't go down that route. But that's way off in the future, and we'd have to establish some rules and guidelines and some financial expectations from whoever we went into business with. If we went into business with them, we might be able to, who knows, we might strike gold in the middle. We'll see what happens next.
Who's next? There must be some questions bubbling away over there in the middle. People haven't asked anything yet. Here we go. Down near the front.
Hi, Marcus. I appreciate none of us have a crystal ball, but with the benefit of the years behind you in your current role as constable, what do you see as the challenges that will face the parish over the next 4 years?
There's another simple answer. Facebook. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. I think we're in a very good place in Clement because the way things were left, for example, with our community services group, I inherited. I can't claim to have invented that. All we've done is try and strengthen it. We've now got a committee that looks after things. It's very, very strong. We thought when the two Julies left us, it would sort of slightly implode, and it's not. So we formed a committee. In fact, Bernadette, who's our French teacher, she's not teaching them all French yet, but she will, has taken that on as well, which is fabulous, and it is going well. I think the biggest threat to us is development. Now, there's two strings to that. When we come to the parish assembly with the annual report and accounts, we can never really show any improvement in the rates coming in because of developments like St Helier. So if you'll note that St Helier very seldom puts their rates up because what happens, their population grows, the housing grows, and the rateable value that comes in grows. They can afford what they're doing next. We can't grow our rates because we want to stop the development that we did 4 years ago. So as soon as I came in, there was the Bridging Island plan, and everybody was up in arms, as I was, because I seen from my Shakespeare days, town moving closer and closer and closer towards us. So we managed to stop that. And we are trying as a parish to buy, if they ever come up, little parcels of land that might be strategic to a developer. So, for example, if you've got a parcel of 4 pieces of land at the back of a potential entranceway from the inner road or the coast road, you try and buy that piece of land that's at the entrance, because the developer needs that to get in there and make his entrance and exit. So it's strategic. So I would say if anybody's in that situation and knows that something's coming up, parish would be very interested, and we'll go out and beg for money if we have to. Didn't have to happen in this case, but certainly, I mean, we had an emergency meeting in there. This group was already taken. We had about 40 people in there, and to the credit of the people who lived around that particular land area, where the dolmen is, down west there, we managed to beat them off. And I got slated in the planning by John Young, who I noticed standing again. What do I know? But that's the threat to us, I think, is development. We've not got enough green space, and we need to be careful what we do with it. That's the big threat.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody else got any comments or questions following that answer? Everybody's studiously avoiding my gaze. Anybody got any burning questions, comments? Or are we going to let Marcus off the hook now? You happy with that, Marcus? Is there anything you want to say? Oh, hang on. Oh, look, somebody's just thought of something. Here we go.
Hi, Marcus. I'd just like to say I think we all are so pleased to have Marcus as our constable, and I wish him well in the next term of office.
I don't have an answer to that.
Thank you for that. So if nobody else has any more questions, Marcus has been valiantly holding forth for nearly an hour. Are you happy to call it a day there, Marcus? Is there anything you want to say before we finish?
I think that the fact that I might be elected unopposed, I get emotional, don't you? Well, it's happening already. I'm very grateful for that. And I'm very grateful that you're putting your confidence in me for another 4 years. And I won't let you down.
Thank you very much, Marcus. And thank you for all your questions. I felt like I was bullying you a bit, but thank you for coming forward with questions. So if you'd like to get in touch with Marcus, I'm sure you will know how to, but if you don't and you're watching online, you can find his contact details on the vote.je website. Manifesto booklets will be delivered to homes from the 11th of May. So if you'd like to know more about Marcus or your senatorial or deputy candidates, they'll be coming through your door soon. If you applied for a postal vote, you need to get your ballot papers in by noon on election day, 7th of June. And don't forget you can vote early at St Paul's Centre if you'd like to. It's between the 26th of May and the 1st of June. If you work in town and that's convenient, that might be an option for you. On election day, polling stations are open from 8 until 8. And please take photo ID with you. So thanks very much for coming and good night.